Welcome, Internet, to the Pixel Play Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast where we go through all the news, rumors, and discussions going on in the gaming world and bring it to you in a condensed podcast for your listening pleasure. I am one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. In this week's episode, we are going to be discussing the Blue Box fiasco that happened last week in terms of their abandoned game. We're going to be talking about Call of Duty Vanguard getting announced and what's coming down the pipe in terms of release information. We're going to be talking about DLC getting pulled from the stores and what that just means for general game preservation. And we're also going to be ranking all of the GTA 5 games, or at least some of them, that we've played just based on the news that Take-Two Interactive is going to be releasing 3 Grand Theft Auto games remastered for the next-gen systems. We're going to be talking about all that and maybe a little bit more in this week's, but let's get right to it. Adam, how are you doing today?
I am suddenly in a much better mood after listening to that tiny botch that I don't think you caught where you said we're going to do our top GTA 5 games.
I did not catch that. No, I did not do that.
I know it makes sense because technically in a very short amount of time we're probably going to see 3 different consoles worth of GTA 5 copies, so you're not wrong.
I thought it was just called GTA 5.
Yeah, at this point it might as well be, right? But otherwise,
you know what? We've had that one game for so long that it's just synonymous in my head that GTA is just GTA 5.
It's starting to feel
I've been
like
saying that for so long.
It absolutely is starting to feel like that. But other than that, I'm actually doing decently well. I had a lovely bout of car trouble for the last 7 days, basically, and finally this weekend was the first bit of peace I've had. So I've been playing a little bit of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know that'll make you a little bit happy.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
I have totally been rating a lot of people and playing Assassin's Creed games the way you're supposed to play them, which is literally ignoring the story for 15 hours to do everything else.
Yep. Yeah, I did that for a while, and then I said, screw this. I'm just going to start playing the story because I'm getting burnt out.
Yeah, I only just recently finally left the first part of the game, so now I'm...
And how far are you into the game? Like, how many hours?
15, maybe 15 or 20.
Yeah, you're on track.
I did everything on that map before I left.
Did you really? I just got the hell out of there. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just leaving. Like, see ya.
You show me a map and you show me something I can do before a story mission, I will do it. That's just how I roll.
I've got some bad news for you then, Adam. I've got some bad news.
I got this game for a time sink. I am more than okay with sitting there for 200 hours filling that map up.
All right, you do that.
I didn't say I was going to have a review anytime soon. That's why I play small games in between. So you might get something. You might get 3 or 4 reviews before I finally give you the Valhalla review. But
I'm going to bet that you're going to give up before you do all of the quest markers on that game.
We'll see.
I'll bet you on that. Yeah. Adam, let's just jump right into it. Just real quick. I thought we'd kind of go over probably the biggest news. It's been a little bit of a quieter week. Not a lot has been going on, but I thought we'd go over probably the biggest story / fiasco from this week, and that is the Blue Box controversy. So if you remember last week, ladies and gentlemen, it was 2 weeks ago. We were talking about Blue Box and people thinking that this was a Silent Hill remake being done with Hideo Kojima along with Blue Box Studios. And there was supposed to be a reveal of the game last week. It was a whole fiasco. And so let's just jump right into it. So Blue Box controversy. So this is coming from Paul Tassi at Forbes. So he mentions the Blue Box saga continues, and it is now abundantly clear this is not some secret Hideo Kojima troll. It's just sort of turned into an endless comedy of errors and fan frustrations as we try to figure out what exactly is happening here. After a large number of delays and technical issues, Blue Box finally did put its abandoned PS5 trailer app live. No one really understood what this was supposed to be at first, but now that it's here, we have some idea. After a 5 GB update yesterday, the abandoned app now had a new menu screen that has placeholders for future releases, which include a number of different teasers and trailers and promises of a playable demo at some point. There's no unlocked timeline here, no word of how long these slots may remain blank. The only thing that went live yesterday was a teaser that lasted for about 3 seconds, the legs of someone walking across the floor, a teaser that already was shown a few days ago. Naturally, fans are annoyed after this buildup and a 5 gig update. This is all that was shown from the game. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see here we got the little trailer coming through of what's seen. Long story short, basically, it was just a trailer that was shown before of just some guy, you don't even see the person, you just see some legs walking along a floorboard in what I assume is a cottage, but I mean, nothing really there to talk about. Adam, before we get into the whole controversy and what's going on there, what's just your initial take of this way of announcing and releasing a game?
The actual way they're doing it?
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Why? I mean, I don't disagree with you, but why?
Because you could have, look, we literally, if you're watching the YouTube video, you literally just saw it. You sat there probably looking at it being like, wait, what, that's it? Yeah, that's completely it. It's a bunch of text hitting the menu, and then it's 3 steps and he's gone. That's it. That's the trailer. You could have done that, not even on YouTube. You could have done it on Twitter, on Instagram, and it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of hype for nothing, and in the fact that it was just something that we had seen before. Like, it was more just announcing that this app was there, but I don't know if that was really necessary in that sense.
And the amount of hype that they even put into it by saying oh, you guys are going to be excited with what we have and all this stuff. And then it ends.
So that brings me to the next point. Let's get right into it. Ooh. So this is coming from Associated Gamer James Anderson. When the exclusive PS5 to Leave the Real-Time Experience app finally got its patch last week, curiosity turned to disappointment when people realized that the video game was the same 5-second teaser that developer Blue Box Game Studios had posted on Twitter, there you go, 3 days earlier. Speaking at the reveal, creator Hassan Karaman said that he's really depressed right now, largely due to people calling Blue Box scammers. NME spoke to Karaman to set the record straight. Despite initially calling To Leave a cinematic first-person survival horror game or survival horror shooter in its announcement, Karam now leans away from defining it as a horror, perhaps trying to distance from the conspiracies. To Leave is a shooter survival game, he said. There are some horror elements in it, but it is not a horror game. It's not what people think it is. It is a Silent Hill. It's not what people think it is. It is, which is Silent Hill. So he's saying this is not Silent Hill. So what do you make of this? What went wrong here?
The fact that it took until after the trailer came out for him to say it's not a Silent Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say it any other way. You let the hype build and didn't say anything, and now you're getting exactly what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting look, if the guy's getting actual bullying and death threats like you would expect the internet to give, that's a whole different story. But if people calling him a scammer, I'm sorry that you're offended, sir, but you scammed your audience by not saying anything, by letting it build like that. And I go back to wrestling because that's my field, but there are a lot of rumors about to circulate for the Friday show that they're about to run in AEW. And they have a track record of whenever a rumor is false, they will say it's false. This one rumor now that's for Friday that seems to be correct, they kept their mouth shut and then slowly went into the direction of, I think everybody knows what to expect. That's the last thing that the owner of the company has said. And it's his way of saying, I know you guys know.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah.
Whereas Blue Box literally just said nothing other than you guys are going to be so excited. Which is basically code for saying, oh, so you guys already know, so okay, we'll just wait until the day comes. So everybody got in their heads that they knew they were right. And with all the conspiracy, all the dots being put together, all that comes together, how is anybody not going to think it's that? As I said on our episode 2 weeks ago, this is either going to be a crazy coincidence that ends up going nowhere and pisses a lot of people off, or it ends up being the real thing. And sure enough, the first one happened. It completely was not what people expected, and this is what happens. You got people so well built up, and now it's just an absolute shit show because people are so angry.
Mm-hmm. See, I definitely share the general opinion with you. I think I'm a little bit lighter on the team. So my thought is that what went wrong here is that the rumors got away from them, and they were benefiting from it. So they certainly had incentive to not say anything. Let's be honest, would either one of us have been talking if some indie studio came out and said, hey, we're making a survival shooter game? No, let's be honest. The Hideo Kojima Silent Hill thing was what put him on the stage. So their incentive is to not, dissuade that and be like, no, guys, this is not a Hideo Kojima game. This is not what you think it is. the interest would plummet.
Well, then you change that by not releasing a trailer of a guy making 3 steps. You actually show something cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like this is not scam. Like, this is not a scam. And I'll go in a little bit more into that in a second. But like, I think this is just a series of blunders and poor decision making, because the way I see it is that this is just where they saw an opportunity to take advantage of, people's speculation and conspiracy. They never said it was Hideo Kojima. They never said it was Silent Hill. Like, people are putting dots together. Should they have quelled it and said, hey guys, you guys are kind of this is kind of running away a little bit. I don't think you guys aren't close to the mark.
Or at the very least, if you're going to let it fester like that and let it build, you have to show something then.
And that was my next point. Like, so the first blunder was just letting this run away and getting the hype that it did. And the second problem that they had is that they had this opportunity. They had this moment where I'd say a significant amount of people's eyes were on this game. This is the moment you had everyone's attention. You come swinging and you show us exactly what this game is. Sure, it may not be the game that we want. It may not be the game that we were expecting. But you have our attention at the moment, so use it and take advantage of it.
And if it happens to look cool, there's going to be that few people that are like, oh, it's not fucking Silent Hill, I don't care. But then there's going to be a bunch of people that wouldn't have never checked it out that went, you know what? That looks kind of cool.
It's not what I was expecting. It wasn't not what I expected, but I'm kind of interested still. Yeah. Right now, they've just lost everybody. There is no one who's walked away from this being like, it's not the Hideo Kojima Silent Hill game I thought it was going to be. And I don't know what it is, but I'm still excited. I'm going to tune in. Like, everyone who's tuning in now is just here to watch a garbage truck on fire.
We're now at the point where, like, if this game sells 100 copies, I'll be shocked now, because people are just are that like they're either turned off or they're just seeing the dumpster fire on like social media. That's all it is.
And I once again, I don't ever want a game to come out and fail or to be a failure or whatever. But like, no offense, this game's legacy now is this is the game that everyone thought was something else and then disappointed them. Like, it could be an awesome game, and I hope it is. But if it's an awesome game, come out and show us that it's an awesome game. You've just wasted your opportunity. You just wasted your shot to show us what this game was and why it matters. That whole notion of is blue box scammers? No, I don't think they are. Once again, I think they just made poor choices in their marketing. And the reason why I say that is that I would take the idea like nobody lost anything. It's not like they were selling a game based on lies and people put their money down and they're now getting burned. We've lost some time. We're disappointed, but like, it's not a scam. Like, there was nothing in there that lied to us in the sense of
there's definitely a different term you should be using, but like the sense is what you should be calling them is something negative. It's just maybe scammer is not the right word.
Yeah. Were they misleading? Absolutely. Were they deceptive? Yeah, maybe. But like, I don't think they were scammers. I think they saw an opportunity to get some hype by these rumors and they never quelled them. Should they have? I'd say yes, or at least like temper them. But I don't think they were scamming in the sense that they were feeding into it or anything.
At the same time, though, I don't fault anybody for calling them that, because they felt like they got scammed out of something that they thought was coming.
100%. I can understand
why
someone
is disappointed. So it goes both ways. Like, I understand both sides. Like, yeah, it sucks to be treated as such when all you're trying to do is show something cool. But at the same time, you're a fan of something that hasn't been existing in forever, in a project that you really wish would happen. And this company looked like that was it, and they didn't say anything to attribute it otherwise. So yeah. Everybody made some really poor decisions. The developer made poor decisions in not handling this well, and fans did a poor decision in getting themselves way too overhyped for something that they couldn't guarantee was real.
Well, I think it's like I come back to like their marketing PR team. And the idea of marketing and PR is to advertise and get a game hyped. And they did. Like they had a hype for this app and they had a hype for the game. Everyone was talking about it. The problem is that they got 90% of the way to the finish line and then tripped.
You got to follow through.
Exactly.
Like,
right?
you could say like the PR team did a great job and then the development didn't do anything.
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's the development team, because like the marketing team also knows what's going on behind the scenes too. And so like, once again, they were halfway there and then they just stopped.
Well, I mean, I guess whoever's making trailers or who's just like, or whoever's at the top of the company who's deciding what to put out. It's like, you guys should have known. Like, everybody was anticipating whatever you had, and if all you were going to show them was some footsteps, like, you should know exactly what that's going to do. This isn't 2000. This isn't like the beginning of the internet culture.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2021, the age of everything is an outrage. You should know better. So for a company to put themselves in that position and fail so catastrophically is an indictment to that team, because they should know what would have happened had they given just that 3-second clip as their big show. The only way this is salvageable at this point, I mean, apart from it actually being a ruse the entire time and it really is Silent Hill, and there's
it's a fake out of a fake out.
There's that few people that somehow are believing that, and I'm just sitting here being like, man, I almost want it to be just so that the 5 people left believing that end up being the ones to say I told you so. But the only other way that this is going to get out is this game has to be like off the wall amazing. Like IGN and GameSpot and all these companies have to, or all these like publications have to come out and say this is a 9 to a 10, like a game changer in the genre. Mm-hmm. I don't think it will at this point, just based on like the gut feeling I'm getting, but who knows? That can always change. That's the only way they get out of this with any sort of credibility. If the game is even okay, they're done. Like, unfortunately, that's probably it. Because the amount of time they probably spent making this is not going to be... It's not going to go very well if they don't sell. Because I feel like with the kind of tech they seem to be pushing into this game, it's not cheap. It's not going to be, an inexpensive game by the looks of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the thing. Is like, I was going to ask you, like, where do you think the future is? And for me, it's got an uphill battle now. Like, I don't know where it can really go.
It's not climbing a hill. It's friggin' like on the steep mountain, trying to like climb it without any sort of rope.
Yeah, and like the steep is like inverse, so it's like a cliff that they're trying to climb. They've really set themselves in a bad way, and I don't know where this is going or what's going to happen. Like, let's say, like, what are the chances that this is a fake out?
0.1%.
Yeah.
I can't even give it a single digit. Like, I don't... I mean, if the PR team is going out and saying it's not what you think it is, then that pretty much tells you. Because what are you going to do now? Fake out a fake out a fake out?
Kojima's crazy, man. He could do it.
That's why there's the 0.1.
Only Kojima's crazy enough. Any sort of closing thoughts on Blue Box before we close the box?
You always like to watch a good train wreck. I'm having fun in the background. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, let's close the box up. We'll put it underneath, we'll put it in the back of the closet.
The answer to the question, what's in the box? Absolutely nothing, apparently.
Throwback to the last
There
episode.
was no box.
They weren't thinking. The problem is they're thinking too much out of the box. All right, let's move on to the next one. Call of Duty Vanguard. So Adam, I don't know if you've heard of this franchise, Call of Duty. It's some obscure shooting game.
I might have that one. This would have been like, I'm pretty sure this is like some really old game that like no one ever heard of, right? Like they're bringing this back, right?
It's niche. It's very obscure. Yeah. So, so they announced this week. It came out via leaks and rumors, but it's official now. The next Call of Duty is Call of Duty Vanguard, and we are going to be getting some more information on this. So Activision has officially announced Call of Duty Vanguard, the next title in the hugely popular series, with a short teaser video on Monday. While the video doesn't reveal a lot, it consists mostly of footage of 4 different locales that each feature a mysterious face. It seems the game will take place during World War II, likely on the forefront of the war. Details are light right now, but more will be revealed about Call of Duty Vanguard at an event inside Call of Duty Warzone. The series take on a free-to-play battle royale shooter August 19th, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're just watching the trailer right now. Adam, is this your first time seeing it?
Yes.
Okay. What are your sort of thoughts right off the bat?
I mean, it's a really cool artistic trailer. If there's anything I'm taking from it right now, I like how they've designed it. The way that they've incorporated like the map, or like the area itself to form a face of some sort. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening to the audio, first of all, check us out on YouTube if you want. But if you're listening to us on audio, what we're seeing is it starts off in I'm assuming Eastern Front sort of situation, and you see a sniper rifle inside a window, and it kind of cuts back to a wall, and you see what looks like a woman's face, shot through with like bullets. So like the marks on the wall make the face. Then it cuts to the sands of what I am assuming is like South Africa or something like that. Basically a sandy area, and it cuts through, and then you see a person's face in the wreckage. Then I think it goes to I want to say like the forest of like Eastern France or whatever, Germany, like that sort of area, and you see what I'm assuming is a red beret, which would suggest to me that it's like Holland area, the Ardennes kind of area. And you see like a person's face through the barbed wire. You see German helmets, you see the potato masher grenades, all that kind of stuff. And then the last one, you see a propeller plane kind of crashed into the lake with those I think they're called Chekhov. Those like things that you see that are synonymous with like D-Day and those beaches. And you see a plane crashed, and it zooms out to a parachute with like dirt that reveals another person's face. Now, what's interesting in the trailer is that it does say in the end, I think it says something like "We rise together" or something like that. And the four faces that you see coincide, I think, with those four sort of distinguished characters in the original image release of Vanguard. Adam, what are the chances you think this is going to be like have a co-op single player?
There are a few different options. I think that would be one of them, although you got to keep in mind that Call of Duty and single player is not normally the most synonymous thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say, because for all we know, it could just be like maybe it's an online like base like campaign, a la like maybe a Destiny. There's always that possibility too.
Mm-hmm.
Because based on how Warzone's done with like the battle royale thing, what's to stop them from like seeing if Call of Duty works in another format? Honestly, I think there are three different things that it's going to be. It's either what you said, in that it's a cooperative campaign, which would be really cool. It could be what I think it might be, because I don't know how they do. Well, I mean, you can do cooperative campaigns even without that. But I wonder if it's a campaign that has four different characters with four different stories that kind of intertwine. And then there's the other possibility, which is the way off the board kind of pick, which is something more akin to a Destiny, Outriders, Anthem, like those kind of games, in a Call of Duty sort of setting where it's like a consistently like open world sort of MMO, which in a Call of Duty fighting style, in the terms of their combat, I would actually be curious about that. If Vanguard turned out to be like their answer to Destiny, you might actually have my attention just to see what it does, because the combat is as sharp as it can possibly be in Call of Duty games. So for them to have like an attempt to try and capture what other games like that do, that would get my attention. I mean, all three of them are interesting ideas no matter what. It's just, one's way out there, and then the other two just either it's really cool you get to play a campaign with your friends if they even care about it, or because I mean, if you play zombies, I guess it's similar. Or it's just an interesting campaign where it's not just, this entire mission's like this completely like story that just goes in one direction and it's all about these same characters, whereas this thing's like it's different points in history and maybe somehow it all comes together in the end.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how they're going to kind of do this. Like, the idea of a Destiny style kind of intrigues me, but at the same time, like, how do you do that with World War II? Unless they just do like mission raids, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Oh, there are absolutely ways you could get around it. I mean, again, like the Division exists and it's literally just human beings with guns. Like, it's just somehow this guy can take, 100 bullets before he dies compared to these enemies that can take 3,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. My question though is that like it's an interesting choice that they're going back to World War II, and this kind of gives the vibes of, oh my god, the name's escaping. What's the other one? Battlefield. Like it gives vibes of like Battlefield 5. Hey, it's been a long day. But it gives vibes of like Battlefield 5, and that game, with the theaters and stuff, didn't do surprisingly well. And like, I'm not a shooter guy, but I'm a bit of like, I have an interest in World War II, and that game didn't even resonate with me. And I don't hear anyone talking about that Call of Duty World War II that they made either. So it's kind of curious, like, did it sell well enough to justify a second Call of Duty World War II theme?
I mean, it's a Call of Duty game, so I would say yes.
I understand that, but I'm just thinking like from a World War II.
Well,
Okay.
I'm also thinking from the perspective too that like I'm sure a big part of why they're doing another World War II game is to keep it. They really are trying their best to not make it seem like they're copy and pasting constantly by just doing modern shooters all the time.
Yeah.
So it would make sense for them to kind of delve back. And I mean, again, like you're always going to get people excited for a good old World War II because all the classic Call of Duty fans, that's all they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's people that have been turned off by say things like Warzone, you pop in a World War II game, and all of a sudden, the old guard is probably looking at it being like, "Oh, you guys are doing some World War II stuff again. All right, I'll check it out."
Yeah, I mean,
because you're gonna get the kids anyway. Like Call of Duty is a brand at this point when it comes to gaming. It's basically Coca-Cola in video game form. So you're gonna get that core audience no matter what. It's just a matter of trying to see if you can find a way to get the outside audience or the fence sitters or the ones that haven't been around for a while to get back into the fray.
Yeah. So I'm just looking right now. Call of Duty World War II actually sold 19, just shy of 20 million copies, which puts it in the ninth best-selling Call of Duty of the 16 like main trilogy game. Or wow, trilogy. What is going on today?
You're having a rough day.
It is a rough day. This is the ninth of 16 major like full title release games. So not selling super well, but like you said,
out of curiosity, what's the bottom three? That's my curious thing.
What would you guess are the bottom three?
I would probably go Ghost would have to be one of them.
Okay.
Because it was a pretty. I mean, it might still have sold well just because of it being Call of Duty back then, but it was panned. Like people did not like it. I would wonder if World at War didn't do very well.
So just to give you clarification, this was last updated on December of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have
the only other one I could think of would have been Black Ops 4 because some people were actually pretty upset that there was no single player.
So right now they have, and this is an older article from Game Rant. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is just set as TBD because they never updated it. Call of Duty Black Ops is the lowest one with like a ranking and a number. So Black Ops 4 is at 3.5 million. What would you say is the next lowest one?
Next lowest? Probably Infinite Warfare.
Nope. And the lowest one is actually the original Call of Duty at 4.5 million.
Okay. Yeah, I should have thought about maybe going further back.
And then the next one after that?
I'll go back to the old tried and true bad game and Ghosts.
Nope. Call of Duty number 2.
No, okay.
At 5.9.
But it's interesting that, like, are you talking, like, the lowest one was Black Ops 4, right?
Black Ops 4 was the lowest one as of time of release.
That's really interesting.
Now, this is going to surprise you as well. What do you think of the top 3? We'll do with number 3 first. What's number 3?
Number 3 all time, probably Black Ops 2.
Yeah, Black Ops 2 is correct. 29.59 million.
Number 2, I'm going to say Modern Warfare 3.
Correct. 30.97 million.
And then the last one, is it going to be Warzone just because it's free to play?
Once again, this is an older article, so I can't say Warzone.
Oh, okay. So, I want to say just Modern Warfare.
That would be a good guess, but you're incorrect. Number 1 is Call of Duty Black Ops.
Okay. Yeah, that still makes sense.
Now, here's what's going to surprise you. Number 4, Call of Duty Ghosts at 28.8 million.
That's kind of where my brain was thinking, too, because I'm like, it was right around that time that Call of Duty was white hot, so everybody was buying it. So I guarantee you there was like a shit ton of them that were bought right at the very beginning, and then people really didn't end up liking it.
You have to remember with those things, the one that people don't like, the first one that people don't like isn't the one that doesn't sell well.
Yeah.
It's the one after that doesn't sell well.
So just out of my own curiosity, because I thought it was not going to do very well, what did Infinite Warfare do on the list?
Infinite Warfare?
Because a lot of people didn't like that one either because they didn't like the futuristic aspect of it.
Infinite Warfare was 11.
Okay, so it was on the bottom
13.7. So basically, Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3, and Black Ops 4 are round at the bottom.
So basically, it's the game with no single player, and then all the old ones, which is interesting that even the older ones did better because you figure even with just the multiplayer purposes, you'd still sell a bunch of copies.
Conversely, you'd also have like a longer run rate with the older games, right?
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I'm kind of curious as like where they're gonna go with this new version. What do you think of games doing this whole reveal in their live service thing? So like they said they're gonna release, like they're gonna do an event within their Warzone game. What do you think of that?
It doesn't bother me because I know it'll just get put on YouTube anyway. So it's just an extra place. Like I've seen some people being like, "That's so stupid." They would debut it in a game. It's like, well, it's not like it's only going to be in the game, and the only way you can watch it is in the game. Like it's gonna go out on social media because it has to. So to me, it's just another place to announce it. Which cool, it's just more. It's just another place. Who cares?
I'm torn. Like obviously, like I'd rather it just be like on YouTube or whatever. But I think it totally makes sense. Like I mean,
it's the people in Warzone. Audience.
Yeah, the Warzone community is your core audience, and now you're going straight to them. So we've always talked about this, and I like the same thing that PlayStation does this, and I wish they did this more with like, hey, we're gonna do stuff with your PlayStation to kind of get you on board. So I think it makes sense. Am I a Warzone guy? No, I'm not a Call of Duty guy either. Like I'll sometimes play them just for fun. Like they're not bad. Like I respect that what they are, and they are good games, but they're just not my style of game. So I think for me it's like, yeah, it makes sense. This isn't particularly my instance, but I totally understand why you're doing it that way, and I think it's a good nod to the fans and the players and get them hyped first. And like you said, it'll be on YouTube for the rest of us afterwards.
Well, it's smart too, because not only do you get the core fans who are already playing a reason to watch it, but now you're getting a reason for the old guard that maybe have stopped playing Warzone to come back just for a moment to see that trailer. Maybe they get hooked again. So
yeah, for sure.
It's a win-win if you're Activision at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go on to the
side note. It's also nice that Activision gets a moment to actually have like a sort of piece of good press.
Yeah, probably much needed for them.
One in like the last like 50 stories.
It's not been a good year for Activision, and it'll be interesting to see what the reception is to the.
The trailer is going to get downvoted unless it's like something really crazy, and even then, I think it might still get downvoted because it's Activision right now.
It'll be interesting to see. Adam, this one isn't probably not something that's huge newsworthy, but I thought it brings up an interesting conversation, or you brought it up and it brings up an interesting conversation. So Dead by Daylight content being pulled. So this is coming straight from the Dead by Daylight team. So they wrote, in September of 2019, Dead by Daylight welcomed one of the most popular original horror properties of the last decade into the fog with Stranger Things Chapter. Now, after 2 years filled with more brutal kills and last-second escapes than we can count, courtesy of the Demogorgon, Nancy Wheeler, and Steve Harrington, November 17th, 2021 will mark the last occasion for fans to purchase Stranger Things content in Dead by Daylight. Leading up to this date, we'll be celebrating the heroes and horrors of Hawkins with a blowout sale of all Stranger Things characters and cosmetics. If you've already purchased any of our Stranger Things content, fret not. It's yours to keep as long as you continue to play Dead by Daylight. If you've had your eye on any of the characters or outfits, you still want to add them to your collection, now's the time to scoop them up at an amazing discount. So, Adam, first of all, do you think that this has anything to do with Netflix getting into gaming? Do you think Netflix is pulling this back in for their IP in for their own?
No, I think it's just they signed a license for 2 years and that was the end of it. I don't think there's anything else too crazy, but I think it really just was they signed it for a couple of years. Because I mean, I don't think they even knew at the time just how long this game was going to keep going. Like it's still going strong. So they probably just signed it for a couple of years. I'm sure if it was going to be like a permanent license or a really long license, it was going to cost way too much money that the developers weren't willing to pay. So it was probably just a matter of this is probably about the time frame that we think it would be long enough that the game's probably going to, most people are going to buy it. And then at the same time, like it's not going to cost us too much in the end. So I think it just, I really think it was just the license ran out and that's it. I don't think it was anything else too complicated.
Yeah. But like if it was so well and popular, would you imagine that they would have paid to keep it? Or do you think Netflix is just not interested?
Well, I guess you're going to know now if, it suddenly has a lot of sales now that it's going to be at a discount because they're putting it all half off. So, I mean, I guess you'll know for sure then. And maybe, who knows, maybe you work something out again with them later down the road. But
yeah. But I'm deviating. This is not what we originally had in mind for the topic. So what we were going to talk about is like, how do you feel about DLC being pulled like this? Like, not necessarily with this instance, but like DLC or add-ons or content getting pulled from the store.
It goes one of two ways, right? Like in this case, it really is a licensing issue. Like we're not talking about like some just completely original character or map or anything else being taken down. we're talking a license thing. So in this specific case, it's like, I still don't like it, but I get it. If we were talking completely original stuff and they just took it off the store because, like, in the same way that Nintendo only had its Mario 3D collection for a limited time, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, that's not cool, because what happens to people that don't have the money to buy it at that time or don't even know the game exists at that point? Like, there's always a possibility that at the end of November, people are going to just learn about Dead by Daylight as a game, and they're going to be really sad because they really are big Stranger Things fans and they just never got a chance to have it. So it goes both ways, I think, and like, depending on the situation, I don't think there's an issue, but I think in general, I still don't like the practice to begin with, because I think it really robs gamers the chance to have something cool, regardless of what you feel about it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is like, I'm going to put on my old man hat and kind of complain about new and scary things, but this is one of the reasons why I am hesitant or not a big fan of like DLC, or not DLC, but like digital only games, or going for a digital only game collection. I like having that sort of physical, game, so that no matter what, like, yes, it's not going to be what it is after updates and stuff, but like, it's still available. Like, if I want to pull a game from PS3, I have it no matter what, just because I have the disc. Sure, it may not be the exact same game that it ended up being, or it may not work as well because of, patches or whatever, but I at least have something or some sort of content, versus, things like this, or there's a new numbers of other games. Like, I know Disney has a bunch of games that got pulled. Nintendo pulled their Mario game, but like, once again, the Mario one is different as well, because like, there are physical copies floating around the world, so that if you do need to get it, it won't be cheap and it won't be easy necessarily, but like, there are physical games still available. So I don't know. For me, this is just like one of those notches of like, why I'm skeptical or reluctant to go for a digital only sort of gaming world.
Yeah, I mean, it's, even if you want to go back to the Silent Hill conversation, the whole fact that like the PT demo just vanished from stores. So like,
yep.
It got to a point where like, people were selling off their consoles because it had the copy on it, and it would sell for much more than market value, just because people want to be able to have that demo forever.
Yeah.
So it really does bring up that conversation of like, is it right to be able to just to pull stuff off store shelves, especially in a digital format? Like, obviously, now that we stand in here in the PS5 generation, for us, that all this stuff's really backwards compatible. Like, if they were ever one day to be like, okay, any PS4 game, we're going to take it off the store on PS5, like, that should never happen. Maybe during PS6, like, let's assume PS6 exists and it's backwards compatible to only PS5. Whatever, if the PS4 store has to go down, it is what it is. But like, I would never expect it to suddenly just tear down everything and just never make it available again. Like, I'm still of the mind that like, as soon as there is no way to get any sort of copy, digital or physical, of something, you should be allowed to pirate it. Like, flat out. Like, there should be ways to emulate otherwise, because if there's no way to get it, and especially if there's no way to get it without paying thousands of dollars. Like, if you really want to play like an old, say, Atari game, but there's literally like 200 copies on the planet, and if you want one, it's going to cost you $1,800, you shouldn't have to pay for that. Like, there comes a point, right? Like, we're not talking about right now, getting a copy of GTA 3 on PS2. We're talking about like things that literally don't exist on the market anywhere. Like, there's no way of getting it, and not even for a good price. So it's a very nuanced conversation, and it's depending on the situation for each of these. But for the most part, I just don't like the idea of stuff ever being taken down regardless.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like, there's some situations, like, there is a foreseeable future where the PS5 digital only version it might become a brick. And if you think about it, like, it sounds crazy now, and I hope I'm wrong, but like, if you think about it, like, the PlayStation, we had that situation with the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita store going offline, and fortunately those have been, survived. And I wonder if anyone has actually bought anything now that that store is still back up and alive. But if you think of it, like, the PSP store is still going down, and there was that PSP Go that was like a digital only console. And once the store goes, those things are going to become bricks unless you have games already on it.
Yeah,
They're not going to be worth
at the
anything.
very least, if you know it's shutting down, you have the opportunity to at least just install as much as you can. But there's unless you have like a ton of external drives, you're not going to be able to get everything. So
exactly. So for me, it's just raises the question too of video game preservation, and is this something that does video game preservation matter, Adam?
I think it does because I consider video games to be the same as preserving history. You know. I know a lot of people don't care about any just random like Atari Jaguar game, but they should all be preserved somehow. There should be some way of being able to like go back and just see what it was. Sorry, you can go ahead.
I'm going to challenge that notion right there that like we need to preserve everything. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
I mean, if we're talking really, really old stuff, it's not hard. Most of these things are so small that you could literally cram entire libraries on a thumb drive and it wouldn't take much.
I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you in that it would be hard. But the problem is that like as you like think of how many games have been made, and like how do you preserve every single iteration? Like when we get to something like Destiny, do we keep Destiny? And we keep the version with, Peter Dinklage's voice and then the Nolan North voice. Like, if you think about it, like with like artwork or films and stuff, like we don't catalog and preserve everything like that. There's way too much. Like, not every single movie that has ever released is preserved and kept and stored because it just takes up way too much space. One of the things with preservation and like museum curation is that you have to constantly like you kind of have to reassess your collection, and like you don't necessarily need to have every single piece of content, but just if you have something that reflects the time and the space, you get the ones that are culturally significant, the ones that are moving the genre, or ones that are enigmatic of something. That's when you sort of preserve those, but you don't need to have every single shovelware kind of preserved in game.
Well, let me ask you a question then. Are you referring to the preservation of games as an industry thing or as something just in general, as like fans being able to do it? Because I agree that like companies should not be forced to keep copies of their software for eternity. The ones that matter the most, the companies will hang on to. Like all the Mario games are going to be forever held by Nintendo because they know they can always keep bringing it back and making what they want. But I mean, I think as fans, like especially when it comes to things like emulation, as we've seen over the years, like we should be trying as much as we can to preserve as much as we can, and it has been done to this day. It's still being done as much as possible.
No, I
don't think the industry itself has a moral obligation to do so, but I think we as fans should be trying to do as much as we can, just for the sake of it.
I'm talking like from like a archival perspective, not necessarily from the industry or the developers themselves, but for like the gaming population. And I think we need to have a conversation of, is every game worth preserving?
I think just because, like I said, because it doesn't take much space, if we're going really far back in the old days of gaming, I don't think it's that much of an ask either. I mean, you can literally go to like any emulation site or even go to like a torrent site and you can find the entire like NES library and it's not even a gigabyte, I think. So
no, I know what you mean. I'm just saying like
it's definitely possible.
But as we get to larger and larger games, and like think of something like Fortnite, do we preserve every season and every sort of iteration?
When you start getting into modern games where there's a lot more things, like again when we're talking with Dead by Daylight and DLC, that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah. But I mean, like, just
in terms
because
of preserving that stuff, that's where you really get into murky waters because not everybody's copy of that game is going to be the same.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, yeah, it would be easy for us to preserve older games, but like, does it matter? Like, do we need everything that like the Commodore 64 made and all like the other we're thinking of stuff before the NES? Like, there was a lot of shovelware. There's a reason why the industry collapsed on itself.
Well, I mean, if the question is, do we need it? No. Would I like it? Yes.
Fair enough.
And I mean, when it comes to things like, let's say, Destiny or Dead by Daylight or Fortnite, I don't care about preserving the DLC like for years and years and years. Preserve the base game if you can. That's really the only important thing. Just preserve the base.
Yeah.
Although you get tricky if it's online only games too, because if they don't have servers, what do you do?
I mean, granted that we also have the benefit that there are so many like now that Twitch and live streaming and gameplays are so prevalent, the stuff is being archived, maybe not in a way that like it's playable for you or
yeah. There's
like,
always
you,
like you have
for you children
runs,
of 2080
like,
listening to for you children of 2080 listening to this podcast, 60 years from now, no, there is no way for you to play Dead by Daylight, but you can go and watch, your grandparents play it when they were 20 on Twitch.
Well, assuming those sites still last.
twitcharchive.com.
it'll be, because that's the thing, like
go to your local library and go look at the archives of the Twitch archives that they've kept preserved.
Yeah, there's going to be some really weird shit.
Check out the hot tub controversies of 2021. That was a golden age.
Yeah, there's gonna, if by the time that we are dead and gone, there's going to be some weird parts in the history textbooks when it comes to social like actual social experiments and how we evolved in some of the more mainstream concepts and stuff.
Things got weird after 2019.
But I mean, like, and again, like, if, like I said, online games, it gets weird. I think if, let's say we take a single player game, like you take, I don't know, let's just say Final Fantasy 15.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you preserve like costumes or like certain things like that. I think there's way too much to it that it's a little bit difficult. But like, as long as the base game, which can be played offline, as long as that's a thing, I think preservation should be necessary if possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, doesn't have to be an industry mandated thing, but like, I mean, we see people all the time doing what they can to archive it. You see people literally taking. There's a guy that not too long ago made a mod for Simpsons Hit and Run where there's no loading screens anymore. It's just all one big map. Like, people still to this day will like improve games that are like decades old. So you never know, right?
Yeah. There's
different ways to preserve, because like you got things like people now have GoldenEye mods for PC where you can play with mouse and keyboard at 60 frames. Like, you never know what the future holds if people care enough about something.
It's crazy to think where like multiplayer came from, because I still think of playing like Facility in GoldenEye.
Slaps only, no odd job.
I was always, my go-to weapon was proximity mines. I loved playing proximity mines. You play the Facility, you just proximity mine the hallway so nobody can get to you. Like, worst way to play it, but it totally is a like effective way.
Yeah, what's worse, proximity mining on Facility or odd job? It's kind of a toss-up.
I'd say proximity mines are worse, because eventually my sister figured out my scheme, and then she just didn't come into the Facility. So then it just became a situation where I was sitting in the lab with my proximity mines, and she had proximity mined everything else, and we were just sitting there being like, "You go first." No, you go first. Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah. One other way that you can preserve games is through remasters, and this is coming from Kotaku. Kotaku. This is what happens when we don't record on our usual night, Adam.
You're trying to make excuses like Monday is the reason that you're having all these troubles now.
It's a Monday here. Yeah, we're recording on Monday, ladies and gentlemen. So the GTA Remaster Trilogy appears to be real and coming to Switch. So this is coming from Zach Swisen at Kotaku, not Kotaku. After months of rumors and speculation, Kotaku has learned from sources that Rockstar Games may be remastering 3 classic Grand Theft Auto games. Currently appears that these games will be released later this fall for a multitude of platforms, including the portable Nintendo Switch. For the past year, rumors have swirled on Twitter, Reddit, and various message boards that Rockstar is working on remakes and remasters of the classics PS2-era Grand Theft Auto titles. These rumors only grew in popularity as Rockstar's parent company, Take-Two Interactive, used DMCA to take down or remove classic GTA mods from the internet, while announcing that the publisher had 3 remastered games in development. While Kotaku can't confirm what all those teased remasters titles specifically are, we can confirm via corroborating details from 3 sources that GTA remasters are currently in the final stages of development. So, Adam, any sort of surprises with GTA Trilogy being remastered? You kind of called this last week.
I was going to say, I'm not surprised I called it.
Now, are you thinking we're going to get like a one combination with all 3 games, or do you think these are going to be sold separately?
No, it's going to be, because they've already released the Trilogy before in one fell swoop, so it's going to be one disc or one big file, kind of like what the Mass Effect Legendary Edition was. I imagine that's how it'll be.
Okay, yeah. So I figured instead of us doing like a whole like, oh, should they do this? Which one should it be? I thought we should just have a fun thing and just discuss, do you want to do all rank all the GTAs, or do we want to rank just the top 3?
Just do top 3, but I will say one more thing just about the remasters. I've heard that it mostly might just be a facelift and might not touch the gameplay. If that's the case, if they don't touch the gameplay, I'm not buying it. Because graphically, that's not good enough. Because like the gameplay, I went back and played Vice City when I first moved into this apartment because I broke out my old PS2 and was like, I wonder what it's gonna if this is aged well at all. And I played Vice City. It controls like ass. It controls like a game that's 20 years old because it is.
I tried playing the original Grand Theft Auto 3 a couple years ago, and like it's fine, but like it's not great. Like it's got some wonky game decisions and some controls that are just like
the only other thing I would say then is if it comes up for PC, get it there because I'm sure somebody will mod it and make controls 100%. Better.
Yeah.
It'll be better that way. But like as it stands, like a graphical upgrade is not enough for games of this age.
So how do you want to do this? Do you want to just rank by like best game? Do we want to do it by like most significant? Like do you want to just do like just generally like top 3 or whatever?
Yeah, do your own thing. If you want to do top 3 in terms of what you think is better or what you think was more significant, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so we're going to keep this just to the main ones in the series. So just to recap everybody, we are going to do Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Auto 2, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto 4, and Grand Theft Auto 5. So, Adam, what is your number 3?
Number 3 would be the one that kind of got me introduced in the first place, and that's the one that's currently on screen right now. If you're watching on YouTube, that would be GTA 3. To this day, I don't think a game that I played kind of really made me kind of see where like how different games could be, because back then, like, yeah, I could play things like, you know, your GoldenEyes and stuff like that, but to me, this kind of an open world felt new to me because I never had a gaming PC ever, so I didn't have like your Diablos or things like that could have shown me what that was. This was like my first foray into a truly like what felt like a lively world to play in, rather than just playing like, you know, Final Fantasy games or Mario games or Zelda or anything like that. This truly felt like a world I could like explore, and it felt real to me. Whereas, you know, you get used to so much of a fantasy aspect to it, right?
Yeah, so I totally hear what you're saying. For me, I'd put number 3 as Grand Theft Auto 2. Like, I think that game really kind of just, it's a fun game to play, and it's still fun to this day. The top-down view is really unique. It kind of takes what Grand Theft Auto 1 did and then just kind of improved on it. So for me, I'd put Grand Theft Auto 2 as sort of being my number 3 game, just for being unique and different.
I never really played, like, I must have played, like, the top-down, like, original, like, a tiny bit. I think I might have even played on, like, a Game Boy Advance. I think it might have been the Grand Theft Auto Advance that I tried it on. And this is after already playing, like, the main 3 on PS2. So it just felt weird. Like, it felt like I was, like, I guess you could say it was me playing, like, an indie game back then. It felt a little off.
Like, it's one of those ones that, like, at the time it was, like, really interesting and, like, pretty groundbreaking for what it did and stuff. But yeah, like if you go in thinking like it's so different from what Grand Theft Auto is now, but for what it did at the time, it was really unique and really interesting. And so for me, that was always something kind of neat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you always got to give props to the originals.
All right, what is your number 2?
Number 2, mostly for the online purposes, but like GTA 5, because the amount of time that I spent with friends in those games were just like, I couldn't get enough of it. Like, I put so much time on console, and then it was free on Epic at one point last year, and because we had nothing to do in the pandemic, we just played a crap ton of it, and like, I played way more because I was, all my friends, they just want to do like the heists and stuff. I was like, I want all the shit. So I would spend like, I would literally get home from work each day and just plop in like couple of podcasts, or like if somebody that I watch on YouTube had like a really long video, I'd plop all that together, I'd have my playlist for the night, and I would just grind and grind and grind and just make so much money to the point that I had a lot of stuff. And I did it without paying for currency because I don't believe in that stuff. Because it is possible. It takes a lot of work, but it's possible. But like, yeah, I played the single player. I didn't love it, but I wasn't really playing it for that anyway. Like as soon as they announced there was going to be an online portion, I'm like, that's what I want, because I wanted to be able to play like a game that I love with my friends instead. Because I played a little bit of like GTA 4's like sandbox multiplayer, whereas GTA 5 was supposed to be like with story and actual missions and cool stuff like that. So that was its key thing for me. The story was fine though.
Yeah, for me, Grand Theft Auto is really good. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is really good. I'm not going to take that away from it, but like it's one of those that has some great ideas. Like I think the heists and how they do the heists are awesome. Like they're preparing for them and then having the 3 playable characters and alternating between the 3 of them on how to kind of do the heists are really cool. However, I feel like there is a bit of like there's a lot of filler in that game, and just like none of the characters are super likable in the sense that like there's a lot of annoying characters, and like the story is not great. The heists are awesome. They're a great highlight. The game looks great. It plays great, but at the same time, the online didn't really do anything for me. And when you look at something like Grand Theft Auto 4 and all that single player DLC that they had versus the online that we got for GTA 5, for me, it's not. GTA 5 does not appeal to me. It's not the thing that calls me to play it. Clearly, I'm in the minority because it's now on 3 generations and it's doing gangbusters, but it doesn't resonate with me. It has some great ideas. It has some great features, but it's not long enough for me to put it in my top 3. So for me, my number 2 would be Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So for me, Grand Theft Auto Vice City just came out at a perfect time for me. Like I was old enough to know what Grand Theft Auto was, but not old enough to actually play it. So when I got to play it, it was awesome. I remember just being at like a friend's house, going there after school and just playing Vice City with him. And like, it was so much fun to just, go around riding around on a bike, just tearing up the town. Like the colors are awesome. The way it like kind of works.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
I would spend like hours in that game just on it. Like after I finished the story, I would just break out the PCJ, like the fastest motorcycle, get like a 2 or 3 star wanted level where it wasn't like completely unfair and they were just spawning like military on you, and just see how long I could go without falling off. Like, that's little things like that.
I never actually played the full like Vice City campaign. Like basically, it became a situation of me and my buddy sitting on his bed, putting in like the all weapons codes, like. Basically, the game became as we did like all weapon unlocks, and then we did like level 5-star wanted levels, and it was just a game of who could last the longest on 5-star wanted levels, and that's what we did, and it was so much fun to do it. So I feel like it was a nice combination of like great gameplay, cool aesthetic, and like a lot of the benefits and creature comforts that like we want. Like it's a Grand Theft Auto game that doesn't feel old. Or it doesn't feel as old as some of the other ones. And so Vice City for me is number 2.
Yeah.
What is your number 1?
That's my number 1, without question.
Fair enough.
For me, it wasn't even a question. Even though I really do like most of except for GTA 4. GTA 4 I've never had a lot of nice things to say about. Mm-hmm. All the PS2 games were fantastic, but I think, in all honesty, like in terms of like story and gameplay, all 3 of them like intertwine. I don't think one of them shines above the other. It's just the atmosphere, like the look of Vice City and the soundtrack, which to me still to this day is not even close. The best Vice City, or not the best Vice. I guess it is the best Vice City unless GTA 6 ends up being one. Vice City is easily the best Grand Theft Auto game in terms of its music library. There is there's an absurd number of really classic, like perfect, like high octane tracks. Whereas like you go through the radio stations in GTA 5, like unless you spend hours on Spotify listening to random tracks, most of it just, you have no idea what the hell you're listening to. Mm-hmm. You turn on like either the rock station or the pop station specifically with Vice City, and like half the songs. Mm-hmm. They're all like, for how many amazing tracks that game has, like it's amazing that they got all of those under one thing and didn't have to spend like so much money that it was just absurd at that point.
Yeah,
I really do wonder how much they paid for all that licensing, because like the amount of tracks, it just seems crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, I think one of the other things not to take away from Vice City is that like if you look at the stuff that precedes it, it's all very like it's got a brown tint until Grand Theft Auto 5. Like San Andreas is kind of brown. Grand Theft Auto 4 is pretty much just brown, and it's like it doesn't have that same color pop and that like neon color lights that like the Vice City does, and I think that's
it's definitely a big part
awesome.
of why people remember it too, because it's hard not to forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Or hard to forget it.
Yeah. So of all the ones that are being released, this is probably the one I'm most excited to play again.
I mean, it's why everybody's hoping that whatever the newest one is going to be back in Vice City, because they want to see what it looks like with like proper modern day graphics now.
Yeah. For me, number one though, I'm gonna give it to Grand Theft Auto 3. Much in the same that I said for Grand Theft Auto 2. I think Grand Theft Auto 3 is probably one of the most important games, probably in history, in the sense of what it did for the franchise and also what it did for like gaming. Because like this was at the early stages of open world gaming and 3D like open worlds, and so it does a lot that it contributes not just to what Grand Theft Auto is and what it became, but also just to gaming in general. So it was really unique in its time. Does it play well? Nah, not really. Does it look great? Hell no. It looks really old and really clunky and stuff. But like for what it did for its time, like it's a very influential game. And I've always said, like, if you were going to make a top 10 list of like the 10 most important games to the industry, like Grand Theft Auto for me would be one of them. Just because you have that open world map that, you know, you could pretty much go anywhere. I don't think there's much loading screens once you're in the world. I think it's just once you go into missions that it loads up. But to have that open world sort of thing, like you got to remember back when this was the case, like open world games were like, I think like there was like GoldenEye, there's Mario, but like Mario was like you just load up the levels. Same with like James Bond, they were like small contained. This, I don't want to be quoted in saying like I'm like this is for sure, but this was definitely one of the first truly open world 3D games. And so to take the Grand Theft Auto series from 2D GTA 2, GTA 1 to a 3D realm in GTA 3 is really amazing. And so for me, that's why I put GTA 3 as my number one.
Cool. I mean, at least we seem to be pretty much in agreement on like two of them where they belong. So
yeah, and I think we agree. Like Vice City is pretty good, and we all agree that GTA 4 is the weakest of all of them.
Well, because my biggest thing with 4, right? Like to just dumb it down, like I know the point in GTA is that they're all criminals and they're all bad people, but for the most part, there's something to love in them. Like it was really hard not to like Tommy Vercetti. It doesn't really matter in 3 because he's a mute. Claude's a mute. It doesn't make a difference. San Andreas, it was really hard not to like CJ.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, you didn't stop the damn train. Oh, no, follow the damn train. Sorry.
Follow the damn train.
And even with like 5, like, yeah, like they're pretty scummy. It's hard not to like Franklin. Now, Franklin's pretty chill. But like then you get into Michael, who's on the fence, and then Trevor's just a psychopath. So you know
Trevor's endearing in his own weird way. Like
but
you
at
don't
the end of the day,
him,
like the things he does, you can't agree with either. So it's
100%. But him, it's just fun to watch that train wreck. But yeah, Michael is not fun, nor is he like relatable or likable.
And then you go to 4, and you get Nico, who I literally, no matter how much I played that game, I can't find a reason to even be remotely interested in what you have to offer. Because he just seemed like a miserable prick. Yeah. And I know that it wasn't that good because I don't even know if I got halfway through the game ever, and I've tried 3 different times to play through it. I've never finished 4.
Yeah.
And I never even tried the DLC ones. I have no idea if The Lost and the Damned or the Ballad of Gay Tony are any good. I have no idea.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think. What is the best GTA game in your opinion? Once again, I think that's going to wrap it for us here. What do you think?
I don't know. Do you want to tally up how we've been doing with the game that we were totally playing and hasn't really panned out well because everything's either getting delayed or canceled?
No, I don't want to get disappointed. So let's put a pin in that for another time, sir.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up. By the way,
just to spoil it, the answer is none of us are really winning at this point.
Well, one of us. So you're suggesting there's a tie?
At this point, yes.
Oh wow, interesting. So we'll see how that goes. So it's gonna be a close one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If this is your first time listening to us, thank you. We hope it was good for you. If you're one of our regulars, thank you so much for sticking with us. I know we've had a bunch of people who've been listening for a while, commenting in the sections. We really appreciate that. If you ever want to get in touch with us, or if you want to communicate, leave a comment on the video below. Let us know what you think. Do you think that Blue Box, what did they do wrong? How do you feel about, what do you think the Vanguard trailer is going to look like? Or what do you think is the best Grand Theft Auto game? Let us know in the comments below. We typically try to respond to every single one of them. If you want to reach us otherwise, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can always reach out to us at Twitter at pixelplaycast or on Instagram at pixelplaycast. And please feel free to send us emails, topics of the show, or if you just want to respond to what we're talking about here. We'd love to have your feedback, and we're happy to read it on the air at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com.
And not to mention, even if you have stuff like random topics you want us to go on about, do it up. Sometimes we have dead days where we could use some of your questions. Do it.
Yeah, we've had a couple questions come in, and so we're happy to answer those as they come in. So please feel free to send us in there. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can find us at Pixel Play Podcast. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, just searching for Pixel Play Podcast. I'm your host, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. That's been the show, and we will see you guys next week. Bye for now.